Hi, if you are watching this video, it's probably because you are new to BPMN. So I will show you the purpose and what BPMN means. So what you can do with it and what it's useful. So let's first start by explaining a bit of BPMN and then discussing the use of it. So the first thing is to use a good modeler, and I have chosen Camunda Modeler because it's very accessible and I knew it before, so that was the easiest one. So the first thing you will see is that you have a starting point that is already set for you, and you will notice that the border is a simple black border. In BPMN, the shape and the outline are the two things that are relevant. The remaining stuff like the color or even the deformation are not significant. That means that you are free to add icons to color it. That's your business. So let's create a very simple diagram to explain the principle of token, because in BPMN we will use token to explain the flow. So a simple diagram needs an activity, and this is uh, represented by a rounded rectangle. So that's very important that you have a rounded corner to your rectangle. We will now connect the start to the activity, and we can see that the connection is a plain arrow. Also the line is plain too, so there is no dashes or stuff like that, because it's part of the shape. Now we will add the end event and connect it with the same kind of arrow. These arrows are in an arrow within a process or within a lane. We will explain a lane a bit later on, but now let's focus on the very basics of VPN. You can see that the task and the start and the end event are all anonymous. You can't have an anonymous task. So let's give the task a name. So I called it round BPMN. That's the name of the task. As you can see, a task can have a great scope or a very small scope. Here, learning BPMN means a lot of stuff. So we have a big task that we will be able to chunk. So now we have three elements: a start, a task, and an end event. For now, our start event is anonymous, and our end event is anonymous. Let's give some name. BA stands for Business Analyst. Now you can see that I named the end stuff. I named it Learned BPMN. So we have like a status or occupation and outcome. So remember that you end with an outcome and you start with a will. So you want something, and this is what will trigger your process, and the outcome will end it. In that very simple process, it's quite easy to follow. So let's see how a token operates. First, at the trigger, the token is created. Then the token will follow the flow and will go to the task, learn BPMN. We don't know anything about this task, but we know that it has an exit point, and that's all we know. Token get processed and is outputted from the task, and is destroyed when it reaches the learn BPM. When the token is destroyed, this process is completed. The token may be lifted to the parent process, and then it wouldn't be destroyed. That's a specific case. Okay, so now you have the very basics and you can quickly model linear processes. That's not very interesting, and you may need to take alternations or decision at least, or maybe explain that you want the process to be in parallel or in sequence. So let's see the gateways. First, we will make some room to add a gateway. The gateway is like in flowcharts, if you know this. It's the little lozenge that you can see on the left on the palette. You can see that this software make it very easy to add the element on the edge. Just drag and drop and you get it. You will notice that the gateway, so that will be the name that you will give to this lozenge. This gateway has a cross on it. The cross stands for exclusive. You can remember it by thinking of the X in exclusive. The other is parallel, which is not exclusive, so it's quite easy to remember these two. So let's see how this gateway operates by adding another task. Now on, I will use the shortcuts that are proposed on the side of task and gateway because it's faster and because you saw how to use the palette. So here we have another task that we will call learn something else. Yeah, that's an odd task, but why not? And we'll see something that is not intuitive because there is some non-intuitive stuff. But if you think a bit about, then it becomes clear why you have to do that. Here we have the learn something else and the learn BPMN, and we would like to end the process for both. One error, one mistake, would be to do this. And just connect this. Alright. That's not totally an error. It can make sense. Because here we have two tasks that are not the same, that are not achieving the completion of this process. We have a choice of processes. So this example is a peculiar example. Where we'll have this kind of AND, so two different ANDs. And then the parent process will be able to decide what to do with this. So now we will see a more common case, and we'll let these peculiar cases on the side because they are very peculiar. Okay. So for that, we'll model the learn BPMN. So I will delete the task and we'll detail the learn BPMN task. And if you want to learn BPMN, so I did change the start event. If you want to learn the BPMN, you can watch a tutorial. Why not? Or you may want to read a book. The both sub-process would lead you to the same end, which is learn BPMN. And now you can see something that is happened. We put again the exclusive gateway. And this is because the exclusive gateway will take any token in the input and produce a new token. That's very important to remember what I just said. An exclusive gateway consumes any token and produce a new token. It's not a merge. Very important. Same way, the exclusive gateway, when it's split on the left, will consume a token and will produce one and only one token. Very important. So that's the reason why you have to match gateways with the same type. You can have mixed gateway, but it's advanced modeling, and more often it's an error. Very few people are able to combine different gateways, so mostly an error. But with more expertise, you may learn how to savantly mix gateways, but it's not recommended. So again, mostly an error. Don't confuse your readers. You have to remember that BPMN is also a communication tool, not only a support tool. Okay, so now we have a token that we will create on the inputs, and the token will match the first gateway. There is a decision point, and according to the decision point, let's say the token go to the bottom row. So you decided to read a book. You read your book, everything goes fine, and you end the process and reach the second gateway. In that second gateway, she see a token, munch it, and output a token. And this completes the process with learn BPMN. So that was quite simple. Now you see that this diagram is lacking something, maybe. If you are used to Plumchart, you may see that I just forgot to put a conditional on the gateway. Few modelers do that, and it's somehow wrong because it makes your diagram compact, which may be seen as a good thing, but at the same time it will make it obscure. The best way to model the conditional is to put a dedicated task, and at the end you will see that often taking a decision is a task by itself, so it's better to always model it as such. And now you see that I put an imperative, choose learning method. It's not a question. It can be a question too. But here I decided to go for an imperative style. Now we will label the edge. And we will set this edge as default float. That is the slash on the edge. This slash means that if you did not made another choice, then it's that choice that will prevail. It's in programming languages, it would be a else. So if it's not video, then it's with book. So the token will simply follow the bottom path if you didn't choose video. Okay, so now we saw the exclusive gateway. Let's see the parallel gateway. For this, I will keep the same diagram and I will change the label a bit. And you can see it's a plus. Another mean to remember exclusive and parallel gateways is to use the Boolean algebra, because the X stands for XOR, either one or the other. That's one way to remember it. And the plus means like an inclusive OR, so everything. Here we have our parallel gateway, and that means that we can do the task in parallel. We have to do the task in parallel. So choosing method has to disappear. So let's remove this, and we have our new diagram. So you want to learn BPMN, then you watch a tutorial and read a book. Note that the order is not important, so you can do whatever you want. Of course, here you are not possible, you will not be physically able to do them in parallel, but you may slice and do one part of each, etc. So that's some kind of parallelism. For other tasks, like building a house, so see that I put new house to build, and the outcome will be a house that is built, and there we may put like plumbing and electric network, and maybe foundations, and we will add a new arrow. And now you can see something that we didn't solve. The gateway can have more than 2 outputs and more than 2 inputs. Let's see how a token would behave from this diagram. So the first thing you see is that it gets triggered by the need to build a house. Then it reaches the first gateway, and this is the OR gateway. So the token is split in as many outputs there is. So now we have 3 tokens. The tokens each reach the sub-process, so plumbing, electric network, and foundations. Something is done, and 3 tokens are produced, each at the end of each sub-process, and this token arrive to the merging gateway, and this gateway is aware of how many inputs she has, so she is expecting to have 3 tokens each from each input. This part is important too. Once she gets the 3 inputs, so the 3 tokens, then she will emit only 1 token. And this is while there is something awkward, we can set this to you may skip this part if you are not confident with the previous explanation. So here we see that we put an exclusive gateway. As I said before, each token that will hit the gateway will be produced to the output. And that means that this process will generate 3 tokens. Not good. So that's very important to understand this gateway. We'll see that there is a mean to end the process as soon as a token is received, and that means that this process will then produce only 1 token. I will show it now as this example can serve the purpose. Let's change this to terminate. And now, if a token hits this end, then the process terminates whatever happens. This can be used if you cancel a process and don't want running tokens. So now you have the knowledge for exclusive and parallel gateways. The last one is a mixture of these two. So let's see what is it. I will change it to inclusive, and let's say up. So now we have these like little circles, and these circles means that you can choose how many tasks you want to do from this. So for example, we may need to only do plumbing and electric network. This will be signaled to the other gateway. So now gateways have an awareness of each other. So if the first gateway emits 2 tokens, let's say on plumbing and electric network, then the second gateway knows that these two inputs have to be triggered, and then it will release a token. So this is a bit more difficult, but should be doable. Of course, this gateway can have only one path trigger. Like for example, let's say I use a token. We have a house almost done, so that's house to finish, and we will add a task. So you have to finish a house. Okay, let's see what has to be done, and we see that, and let's remove this one, and we see that we only need plumbing. So the token will be outputted on the plumbing route, and instantly the other gateway will be aware of this. So now the gateway is waiting for the plumbing to terminate. And then, when the plumbing is terminated, we can output the token and the house is built. Let's see another example. We have a house to finish, and we see that we need plumbing and foundation. So the gateway will generate 2 tokens, one on the plumbing route and one on the foundation route. The process executing, plumbing is done, gateway receives 1 token, but she needs another token from foundation. So now the process is waiting foundations to finish. After some time, token is outputted and arrives to the gateway. Now the gateway has 2 tokens and can output the token to house builds. So that's how this gateway works. So that's, if you pay attention, you should be able to understand it. And that's pretty much for the gateways. There is a complex gateway, which is also mostly an error to use it, but can be useful where the condition or the way to handle the output and the input triggers are complex, as it says. It may be like only 2 tasks can be chosen. In that case, this gateway is not useful, but the complex gateway permits such things. But that's a bit odd, but that's possible. And we have the event gateway. The event gateway is useful, but can be replaced with other constructs. We can still see it as it's a useful construct. So let's start from a blank diagram. And for this, I will simply delete everything, and we are afresh. So let's add our gateway, and this will be an event-based gateway. This gateway is expecting events. Events are an intermediate event type that I didn't talk about. We saw start and end events, but not intermediate event, and you probably guess where they sit on the palette. This is the circle with 2 outlines. And there is a way to remember start, intermediate, and end events by seeing the border as a progression. We will see that the border is bolder. So first we have a single border, which is like very subtle. Then we have a double border, which is a bit less subtle, of course. And then we have a full border, which is bold. So that's a progression, a geometric progression that can be easily remembered. That's the goal of BPMN. Okay, let's see the events. So you can't really see them, but don't worry, I will create them. So we have the message event that is waiting for an incoming message, and we'll see what are messages. But for that, we would like to see participants and then stuff. So let's forget that one for now, but know that it exists. Let's see the time event. This one is very interesting, and it's simple and complex at the same time because of its expressiveness. A time event may signify either an absolute time, like at 2 p.m. on Wednesday the 27th, or can be relative, like after 10 minutes. So that's anything related to time. And we have the conditional, and this one is simply wait for a condition. One example of this is like you want to bake something and you put it in the oven. So you put it in the oven and the condition will be wait like the oven is at 180 degree because you have to preheat the stuff. So the condition will be wait a given temperature. Then you can put your plate in the oven. So these are conditions. And the last one is signal. Signals is a mean to process to signal that something did happen. As one example is that you may need to react to an order sent. Like when a carrier will bring your order, we receive a receipt that says, okay, your order is on the way, blah blah blah. It will come between this and this. This would be triggered by a signal that will be a catching signal that will say, okay, when an order is sent, I want to send an email. And that means that you can decouple your processes and have a dedicated process to send an order email. Yeah, a shipping email or something like that. So that's very important to have different processes and not have a huge process that starts with order client visit the website and to client receive the order. That's wrong. You need a process like passing order, then preparing order, then shipping order. You want to separate at least in 3 processes, and there will be a fourth process like stock handling and like accountability and stuff like that. So that's very important to have small self-contained sub-process. And if a process needs to react, don't put it in line, just use another process, use signals, and it will do good for you. If you know the stuff better, you may use participants that will communicate and that permits some synchronization. Like you may need to check the stock before processing an order and maybe refuse it. So there will be some communication. That's something you have to change and adapt to your processes. So basically that's the event gateway. And you can see that it's simple that you have a gateway, you have a list of events, and then you would add your task. And now, not that we can do something here, we can model it with an exclusive gateway, and that means that this activity that I will add will be triggered by either 2 of these events. And that's important that it's a gateway and exclusive. If we change this to a parallel gateway, Now we are waiting for both events. So now we have a compound event. We need a given signal and a given condition. Okay. So that's the use of intermediate event. It can be used also without the event gateway. So let's see this. Allez. And let's take the order stuff maybe. And now let's say that the stock is empty. So stock empty, and we'll send a message. So we'll order something to someone else, and it will be a message. It will go somewhere, and we will wait for and then we'll end here. We'll go straight to the exclusive gateway. So if the stock is empty, we'll make an order to someone else, to our provider. Then we will wait for the items. So that's the message, items, and we will continue the process. So that's and if we have the stock, then we simply ignore the gateway. We go straight to the other gateway, and the order is fulfilled. So that's a very simple diagram. And now it's the good time to introduce the lane stuff. So let's do this. Okay. I want my lane. Voilà. So now we have our lane, and this is your company. And I will say, I don't know, so let's do order clerk. So now we have the person that will handle the orders, and you see that we have a send. So let's add another lane, and we don't know who is it. But we know that these are the guys who will make our products. Okay, and now you see two kinds of lane. The first is a pool with one lane, order clerk, because you can have many lanes, and the other one is a collapsed pool. So it's something we don't know the inside, but we are not really interested to know the inside. We just want to know the interface. And the interface are the set of message we can send back and forth and back. So here we will add some arrows, and you will notice that it won't be the same. So now we have a dashed arrow, and the arrow is not plain, it's hollow, and we have a little circle, which is the source of the message. So you can see that the shape of the arrow is also important. And now we have an exchange of message. And we can, and very good feature is that, as you can see, I had an arrow connecting the two. Now I can remove this. So good. So we send the order, and we are waiting for the items, and you can see that both arrows go to the exclusive gateway, so only one input can be given, and then up a token will be put. So that's the basics, and now you can use event. We'll see and also understand the basics of it. Now we'll add an boundary event, which is another kind of intermediary event. So let's make some room. There is a tools for that, but okay. So I will click on that one and drop it on the border. So now we have an intermediary event on the border, and there is two kinds of borders here, either dashed or not. Here it's not dashed. That means that this intermediary event will stop the process if it triggers, and we can put it like the timer boundary event, and this would mean that we want to set a maximum time. For example, if it takes more than a week, you may want to do something like different customer. So that's a way to do it. So if it takes more than and then you will end with different. So that's a way to say we limit the shipping to a given amount of time, and if this time is elapsed, then we stop the process there, or we interrupt, and we refund the customer, and we end with a refund. So yeah, and we may set this as an error. That means that something went wrong, so it took too much time, and we already took action. This is bad modeling, of course, and we'll see a better way to do it. So instead of putting our timeout at that place, we can put it on the inside the process, inside the order process. So every time we will use the order process, we will have this time to be this time constraint, and that means that here we would handle more an error, but we can do even better. It's to use a compensation boundary event. So that means that, and of course we disconnect because okay, because you can generate the special the software too smartly, and that's why I couldn't simply drag and drop to have my own task. So now you can see that you have the little rewind symbol on the task itself or process, and the arrow is dotted. That means that now if something goes wrong with our order, anything, like we resave the order, but it's not totally correct, there is something wrong with it, then we'll refund the customer. And we can change this one into, so I will delete that. We can change the resave intermediary event to a task, and it has an advantage, is that we can also link this to the I miss this, and I'm looking for the rewind stuff. Voila. And now you are basically telling that if I resave the order and there is something wrong when I resave it, I will refund the customer. that could be the items that are broken or something like that, and in that case we want to refund the customer, and we would end with so tag, receive items, we go there, okay, so we roll back, and now the whole process will be in error. So that means that we can catch this error on the parent process and do something with it. And that all the rewind stuff would be so let's add another task to better explain this. See here, let's do let's do as much smarter. So okay, and I will add here remove from stack, and we'll add the corresponding action. So here we have the action to remove from the stack, and we have the add back to stack, which is the opposite activity that will undo the activity, and that means that if in that process there is an issue, then we will cancel the activity by so if you go through the process with a rewind arrow and something bad happens after it, then we will undo it by executing the linked subprocess. So here, if we see the order, we send the order and then to the third party, and then something wrong happened, then the undo action will be to refund customer. So we refund. Yeah, so that's not good model because the refund customer is not at the right place, because if we have some stock, we just put back into the stock and then the customer is not refunded. But it was to demonstrate the compensation stuff. And what we can do is first remove this, and now we'll see a global way to handle this, and for that I need some room, and we simply handle the error in a sub-process. So I hope that I can use that one and do a no. Yes, can I? Yeah. So okay. So now here I have this, and this will be there, and will be only triggered if the start is triggered, and this one will be like if there is an error, so something is wrong happen, then refund customer and terminate. Voilà. So now what will happen is that if there is any error, we will interrupt the process, we'll refund the customer and interrupt the process. So now I did manage the error at a global level. If we did remove something from the stock, then we'll add back to stock. So now there is two things that are managed, and so that's a way to do it. And this is an anonymous error, so I will catch every error. I don't know what it could be, but any error will trigger a customer refund. And of course, the order would not be fulfilled because we'll end with an error. And maybe I could so I will put an error instead. That is error. Okay. So that's the basic stuff. Now looking if I can yeah. So there was also the document stuff. So maybe you want to document that you have the stacks, and you can do so by using this. Normally you can, yeah. I believe I do something wrong here. Because this document, the document you need, so and this is the where you stock your information. So here we need the product, and it will be shared with that. And normally we can put input and but not here. So normally you can have a smaller row indicating the kind of object if it's an input or output. But I don't see the option here. So yeah, so there is not the option. Now that you can have a white or black arrow, which means input or output. You can somehow guess it with the arrow. If the arrow go to the process, it would be an input. If it goes the other way, it would be an output. So yeah, and we can label the message. No. Okay, because normally we are able to connect this to give more details. But okay. So we have some limits, but that's because Camunda can execute your process, so they have to manage it, and so you have small limitation. That's quite fine because these are an extra layer that you don't need much more than that. So you can just put in your this, and it's okay. Okay. Yeah. So that's basically it. It was an introduction. So voilà. So I hope you enjoyed this and learned something.